Hi, this is Rebecca from Grove Knits Podcast. Welcome back. This is episode 20 and we're at the very end of September in 2022. At the very end of this video, once I've gotten through all of the knitting and yarn content, I'll actually show you some clips and some images from my holiday in Tasmania that we've just gotten back from. So if you're interested in seeing a little bit of Launceston and some of the natural wonders around there, we went to the gorge and we did some other things, then feel free to stay on at the very end and just watch some of that footage. But I'll make sure I pop that right down at the end. But for now today, we're going to have a look at all of my works in progress. There's a whole bunch of new yarn that I bought while I was in Tasmania because you have to buy holiday yarn. We all know this is actually true. I also bought some new sock yarn. I've got some additional cast-ons. I don't think I've got any finished objects because I believe I had finished this particular shawl before I went on holidays. So that's what we're going to be doing. If you need to grab a cuppa, and otherwise just enjoy having a look at everything that I've had going on over the last, I think it's been about 2 weeks, over the last 2 weeks. There's been a fair chunk of knitting, but nothing has actually gotten finished yet. So enjoy. Now, as for what I'm wearing, today I'm wearing my cotton summer souffle by Laura Penrose, and I'm going to knit another one of these. I have this cotton yarn. I have 4 balls of this. Now that's looking a little bit bluer than it is. It is actually that's looking that aqua blue. It's actually like a very light green, but unfortunately the sun is not doing that any favors. There is nowhere I can put this that's going to show the true color. If you're interested in looking at what this looks like, this is the last month's knit crate yarn. I double it up so I get 4 balls of it. So it's 100% cotton, and I'm actually going to knit another one of these. I was looking at other cotton tops, but truly I am wearing the life out of this. I was considering, what sizes did I do? I did a size 6 top. Now I'm a 43-inch bust. I did a size 6 top and I adjusted the sleeves to be size 7 sleeves. Cotton, I had forgotten, oops, got something on it. I had forgotten how much cotton actually grows. So I do have some extra room here. So I'm just trying to get on my tiptoes so you can see where it comes down to. So I've got it sitting at, coming in at basically mid-hip, which is actually really nice. And the extra room in here, look, I'm over 50 and I've had 3 kids, so I have a voluptuous body, but this extra room actually covers this all quite well and is still, I feel, quite nice from a shape standpoint. And so this is a size 6 that I did and 7 on the arms, and the pattern was actually really fantastic at how to actually bring in and make those changes. So I was going to do this slightly smaller from basically here down, but I don't think I will. I think I will actually keep it precisely the way it is, and just in this yarn. Now, while this colourway isn't my favourite, I really wish I could get this to give you a true representation. It's not blue, it's a green. But anyway, I will... Links on YouTube haven't been working for me the best at the moment. But if I can't link it, I'll at least pop what the yarn is around so we can hopefully see things a bit better. So I'm not sure how this will look in this colourway, but I have 4 balls of this. This took exactly 400 grams, so I've got 400 grams. So I'm just going to go with it. And no matter what, this time I won't be casting off this ruffle at 10 o'clock at night because it takes a long time to cast off the ruffle. But so I'm actually looking forward to having another one of these. I think I'll wear it to death because I'm wearing this one to death, which is fantastic. Okay, now, works in progress. I think I started talking last time about the Guatemala by Stephen West, but I hadn't shown you what I'd gotten done. So, this is my Stephen West Guatemala. Let me just pop it on. Let me just untangle the yarn a bit. Okay, so I just need to do this, the last part of this side of the button band. I'm on the side with the holes in it. Oh. Alright, so I've done one side of the this is obviously where the buttons are going to go, and it has, interestingly, an I-cord bind off, which was quite lovely. So the Guatemala, you can see all the colours I've used in it behind there. 2 strands of fingering or 4-ply held together, and I'm just on the last side of the button band now, and then I'll do the sleeves. My husband's going past on the lawnmower, so we're just going to wait a moment. Alright, I decided to do the button bands first because the sleeves, I'm thinking instead of actually picking up the sleeves and knitting around and then purling around, because it's obviously in garter, I'm thinking about just doing the sleeves flat. I have no issue whatsoever having a seam going up my arm, but I'm thinking it actually might just be far easier to just knit cuff up and knit it flat, and then just 3 needle bind off, I suppose, to join them and pick up the, so when I grow the sleeve out, just make sure I've got all the sleeve numbers across here, and I think it's 4 and 4, so just add an extra 8 on for the underarm. So I'm still just giving that some thought. I'm also, concerned about a bit of yarn chicken, because I've still got 1.5 inches of this ribbing to do, and to keep this the same as the bottom, the neck and the other side, this is what I've got. Obviously I've got plenty of this yarn left, but this one I should just make it. It's meant to be a 2-inch rib, but I'm just going to do 1.5 inches, and I think that might get me through. And if not, I'll just have to swap it out for, it'll have a slight variation in it, just for another dark grey that I've got. But I don't have any dark grey that's exactly the same. But by its very nature of this cardigan, I think that it's okay to have it be a little bit different. I'm actually really impressed with how fast this is to knit. It is so wonderful knitting in garter, and I don't know if you can see the stellina I've got in that brown, but there's lots of stellina in that brown. So I've used a lot of great sock yarn. This green down here is actually Noro, so I've got some Noro silk in there. Nice stellina and silk in here. There's possum up here a bit further. I think this is where I've held in some possum. And there's also a possum in this. That dark blue here is in a possum as well. This is incredibly heavy. Oops, I'm dropping yarn. Incredibly heavy. It's going to be incredibly warm. It's going to be fantastic. This I can see as a major staple in my wardrobe. So long as it doesn't grow exceptionally. I'm worried about, with it being garter, that it's basically going to come down and almost to mid-calf when it stretches out. But I guess we'll find out. Alright, that doesn't look the neatest, but it'll do. It's alright. Okay, other works in progress. A pair of vanilla socks. This is the sock yarn I'm using. This is a Knit Picks Hawthorn, and this one is in the Vancouver colorway. So you can see it's got some beautiful greens and teals and some like browns and maroons in there as well. And this is how it knits up. So it's actually quite a pretty colorway. I've just turned for the heel. Now, socks I don't need to use a pattern to knit anymore because we've all knit enough of them, but I'm trying a different heel with this one. So I happened to follow the Earth Tone Girls podcast, and she was, it's a little while ago now, when she went through No Fear sock knitting or something. There's a whole series of that. And she talked about the shadow wrap heel, and I hadn't tried it because I normally just do a eye of partridge heel. So I do the heel flap and then the gusset and pick up the stitches and go about it that way. And that's actually my preferred heel top. I quite like that. But I've decided that it's time for me to actually start playing around with some different heels. Now, if I don't do the heel flap and gusset, if I'm going to do a toe up sock, because this one is cuffed down as you can see, what I'll typically do is just a German short row heel. But this shadow wrap heel, I've got 2 pairs of socks cast on, 2 different socks, and I'm using this doing the shadow wrap heel. These pair will be cuff down, and then I've got the other pair that I'll show you in a moment where I've gone toe up, because I want to see if this heel is any different coming from the opposite direction. I don't think it should be, because the way that you do the heel, it's pretty much exactly the same going both directions. I do have a few concerns now. You're not going to be able to see it that well on this sock. On the next sock I'll show you. It's a beautiful looking heel. It actually closes up beautifully. There's no holes in any of it. But it feels a little bit lumpier on the sides of the heel. And I'm concerned that I might feel that in my boots. Again, I could be worrying about absolutely nothing because I haven't worn them yet. And as you can see, I'm only halfway through the first sock in this colorway, and I have finished the sock in the other colorway and have started the second one. So we'll see how the shadow wrap heel goes, but this is such a pretty colorway. I'm trying to, as I've mentioned before when I went through my yarn stash, actually use up a lot of the yarn I've got. So it is time to get busy knitting socks for things like gifts and that type of thing. One thing I hadn't realised with this hawthorn yarn, in the ball it's particularly soft and feels really lovely. Knitted up, is crunchy a word that I can use in conjunction with yarn? I'm sure it'll soften when I wash it, but knitted up it actually feels stiff, crunchy. Not stiff as in I've used too smaller needles, stiff as in heavily processed. In the ball, not so much. In this, crunchy is probably the best word. It just feels a little bit rough and not as smooth in texture. Hardy, maybe hardy is a better word. Either way, we'll see how it goes. What I do like about the Knit Pick sock yarn though is it is particularly hardy. There's been plenty of times when my kids have accidentally, let's go with accidentally anyway, chucked their hand knit socks in the washing machine and then even in the dryer, and this yarn has actually held up to that. And I've expected it just to shrink up to baby doll size, but it's actually survived that, which is interesting considering it's still wool. Alright, I'm just going to go grab my other sock. Okay, so this next pair of socks I knitted out of some holiday yarn. I'm going to cover my yarn haul in a little bit, but these were the 2 colorways, and this is from a beautiful shop. I'll link it down here. They're called Knits, Needles and Wool in Launceston in Tasmania, and these were hand dyed by one of the ladies that works in the shop. Now this yarn is incredibly soft and knits up beautifully soft. So I've done one sock. I'll show this to you better in the next podcast when I've washed and blocked it, but for now just let me try and get them to sit a bit better. So this is how this colourway knits up. So the colourway is called, Paisley, and then the contrasting heel, cuff and toe is called Ochre. So this is that Shadow Wraps heel. So you can see here, that's the lining there that I'm talking about. But let me put my hand in there and show you. What I love about it, can I show this well, is I'm stretching that out and there is absolutely no holes in there. It's come together quite well. Actually, maybe it will be fine. On the inside it actually feels quite fine and smooth anyway, so maybe there'll be no issue whatsoever. If it's quite comfortable to wear and it fits my heel beautifully, then this will actually be my new go-to, because I do prefer knitting toe-up socks, because I don't like doing Kitchener stitch, and toe-up socks means that I just do the surprisingly stretchy cast off and I don't have to worry about Kitchener stitch. And that's how much of the second sock that I've done. So I've just got the toe going and I'm just on the 3rd colour stripe now. And this time I was organised and actually weighed the mini, and I have used 10, or actually about 9.5 grams to do the contrast here for the for the toe, the heel and the cuff. Used about 9.5 grams. And what I did do as well is up the leg, I went until I got to this next colour change and stopped it there, so that way the next sock started the toe with that brown. So my next work in progress is my Garter Goodness shawl by Stephen West. I am pulling from the centre of the ball, so you can't quite tell. I've actually used probably not quite half of this ball yet, but this is my last ball. So this is just going to be a 3 skein shawl. I will stop knitting when I'm down to just enough of this left to do the I-cord bind off. And naturally I've stopped in the middle of the row because, you know, let's be organised like that. How am I going to show this? So it's coming up quite well. You'll get to see this in its finished form, hopefully when I next podcast, if not the time after. But it's been a fabulous knit to have on the go, just for not wanting to think about things. It's too big now to travel with me when I'm in the car, as is the Garter Marla. So that's why I've been knitting on socks, just take socks with me. So this is just when I'm watching telly at night kind of knitting. So that's why I had to get up and get it, because it's by my couch. Another little work in progress, using some woolen chain plied yarn. You can see there the chains in this, and that's pretty true to colour too. It's a royal blue. Have not split for the sleeves yet, so you can't quite tell. This is going to be a little size 1 to 2 year old flax cardigan. Not a flax light, because this knits up as 8 ply. It'll be 1, 2, 3. I'm about 6 inches down. So getting close to splitting for the sleeves. So if I don't feel like knitting on socks, then this is what I'm knitting on. I love the raglan detail. And that's just with the, my raglans typically is just the knit front and back in the stitch, and I love the way that actually looks. So they're the items that I've been knitting on over the last 2 weeks. The Garter Goodness shawl came to Tasmania with me. The Stephen West cardigan did not, because that was definitely too big. So I was knitting on the shawl and the socks while I was in Tasmania. And in fact, when we went into an art gallery, the curator of the art gallery loved these so much that she actually wants me to contact her when I'm done, and she wants to buy them from me. We all know though, as flattering as that is, we don't put the effort into knitting socks to sell them, because you can't get the money back for them. So I happily gift socks away, because to friends and family and people that I care about, I will absolutely put in the effort to gift this stuff to them. But there's no point in selling socks, because I hand knit. I don't have a sock machine to machine knit with them, so it's just not even remotely viable. Unless she was a girlfriend. Maybe we'll actually catch up and have coffee and wine together, and she can fall into friendship zone, and then I would happily just gift them to her. Alright, I have no finished objects this week because I've got all that stuff going. I do want to try and see if I can't get, if not the Garter Goodness shawl, then this Stephen West cardigan finished before October 6th, because on October 6th I have the, as many of us do, the Make Along by Stephen West, the Twists and Turns shawl. But my yarn hasn't arrived yet, so I'm a little bit worried about that. Although we do happen to have a parcel waiting at the post office today. Where I live we don't get mail, so we've actually got to go to the post office to collect it. And even with that, it's not actually a post office, it's actually a pub, and the pub isn't open on certain days and only does mail from 3 p.m. to I think about 8 p.m. at night. Not Mondays, just Tuesdays to Fridays. So there's a lot of caveats with getting your mail where I live. So fortunately today happens to be Thursday, so we can pick up mail today. No, it's not. Today's Friday. Fortunately, today is Friday, so we can actually get the mail today. And if we don't get it today, we can't get it until Tuesday next week. Alright. What am I thinking about casting on? Well, obviously I'm going to be doing the Make Along by Stephen West. That is on October 6th. What's the date today? Today's the 30th, so that's next week. I think it's Thursday of next week. Thereabouts anyway. So fingers crossed my yarn gets here in time and I can actually cast that on, because I want to stay up to date and actually just knit on that in its entirety with each of those week drops to the clues. So I actually want to keep up with that make along. Outside of that, I also want to cast on the Pearl Soho half and half wrap shawl thing. What's it called? Half and half triangles wrap by Pearl Soho. I have seen for, I think it's a couple of years old now, and I've constantly seen people having that knit, and it is just so beautiful. I often use a particularly large schlanket in the lounge room just to have around my shoulders or over my lap when it's a little bit cooler, and I think that that particular shawl could fill that gap as well and just give me something to knit on that is garter, that I don't need to think about, that has enough interest with the German short rows and the I-cord edging. If it doesn't have I-cord edging, it's going to have I-cord edging on my one. So yeah, so I'm thinking about casting that on. Now let's have a look at my yarn haul from Tasmania. Now, as I said, I did pick up that sock yarn, but I've already shown you that. That was the ochre colourway, and it's self-striping yarn. You've had a look at how those, sorry, the ochre was the contrast colour. That was a paisley colourway, and you've seen how that stripes up. Then there happened to be a sale on at our big box store here in Australia, which is Spotlight. And I think the Spotlight, from the sound of it, might be like Michael's in America. So I went and bought some balls of wool, big names though, so nothing fancy. So Country, Cleckheaton Country in the natural colourway, got 4 balls of that. And in the same brand but just a different colour, I got this blue. So if I don't do something for Arlo with this, I'm actually thinking these two go quite nicely together. So it might be something striped for me, because if I put them together I have 8 balls. If not, I have 4 balls of the blue, and you'll see here that it's got the flex through it that we love. The natural, that's better, that's a much better colour there. Then 4 balls of this green. This is in Cleckheaton again. It's not in the naturals range though, it's just country, and that's got that barber pole look. And it's actually some greens. Let me just turn this up the right way for you. There you go. So just a dark green and a dirty green, I suppose. So 4 of those. And then this is 4-ply, so I just got 3 of these. Again in the wool, but this is Patons Baby Dreamtime Merino. And just in a, I'm assuming it's self-striping. And it's fine merino wool. So it says it a bit blurry there, but hopefully you can read that. So 169 meters to 50 grams. So I got 3 balls of that. And so with those and my sock yarn, that was my holiday yarn haul. So that was fantastic. It was a great time. Now I think I've actually just taken you through everything. I will have a chunk of editing to do because my dogs kept barking on and off throughout that, because dash hounds be dash hounds sometimes. If you are interested in seeing any footage around Launceston, Tasmania, and a little bit around Hobart, because we drove, Hobart is about 2.5 hours south of Launceston, so we actually drove down for a day and caught up with a friend for lunch. Had a bit of a look around there. So I've got plenty of footage. I'll probably put around 3 to 5 minutes footage after this if you want to have a bit of a look around some beautiful scenery, some gorges, some rapids. We took a chairlift and went across quite a big river, lots of peacocks. went to some zoos, that kind of thing. So I will put about 3 to 5 minutes worth of footage after this if you're interested in having a look. If you're not, just feel free to stop here, and may I say thank you very much for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'm back at work again next week because I've been on school holidays at the moment. So yay, all the teachers are back in Victoria from next week. So we get back to being busy again. But anyway, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will hopefully talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time. That's me bag done. Put it in the other bag?
Yeah, might as well. Before you get eaten alive.
La 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 la.
He's the funny monkey. See that black? That's a monkey.
Is it?
That's a funny little monkey. Yeah. He likes me.
I have no food. No food. No food.
Here, Beck.
No, thank you.